Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Nightcast, the Batman audio podcast, and we got a crazy discussion for you tonight. Just keep in mind there will be spoilers for some of the plot of the Joker movie, so if you have not seen the movie or wish to not see it, there's some pretty disturbing psychological stuff in the movie. A lot of the outrage on Twitter is kind of from those crazy Me Too movement people, so it's not really warranted or even a problem that the movie suffers from. Just a brief synopsis, again, spoilers. This movie by Phillips, I believe it is, there's a lot of crazy stuff that's going to happen, and you're going to have to see it multiple times, although it's going to do some stuff to your mind a little bit. It goes with the whole Joker multiple choice thing that basically say you see it, and I see it, and we interpret the movie differently, and we both argue feverishly about it. Neither one of us is wrong in our interpretation of the movie because it goes through so many different aspects of Arthur or Joker's life. Also, some of the crazies on Twitter, namely one of them, who we'll just say Heather, not going to say her last name, but she is a editor in the comic book industry, which is surprising, has some really interesting hot takes, not from her own experience from the movie, but from another journalist, who I wouldn't even call this person a journalist, because they've made some pretty disturbing comparisons to a fictional character with real-life tragedy. One of these crazies actually graduated from clown college and decided that the Joker movie was very similar to the horrible tragedy in Colorado for The Dark Knight Rises, which we actually had a viewer who unfortunately lost their life during that time, seeing that movie, that night, which was devastating for us because they were so excited about seeing the movie, and, well, they've been gone from our community for a very long time.
We actually had a bunch of different viewers affected by that.
Yeah, we did. It was, it was pretty bad.
It's very inappropriate for her to even bring that up, especially because that guy didn't even know the color of Joker's hair.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
how could he couldn't have known about Joker very much at all to not even get his hair color right. That would be it's a pretty tremendous mistake to make.
Well, I mean, these people, I honestly believe that they use comic books and they do other things to further their own agenda, and then they use it kind of like a stepping stone to get to CNN or the Wall Street Journal or New York Times. I mean, wherever they are, they're just trying to build up some credibility with their writing, and then they move somewhere else.
Everyone wants an angle, everyone has their... It's like they don't even care if they're not actually trying to pursue truth. They're just trying to make an angle. Let's see if we can get people to get on the bandwagon for this crazy angle. See how many people we can get to agree with us, whether we like this or not. But anyway,
now,
I'm just going to
one of the biggest hot takes is from another journalist, which we'll get back to talking about Heather, because she has a lot of hypocrisy and other things that she's done with this Joker movie, which, keep in mind, she hasn't seen yet, supposedly. The script for the movie leaked, but the director, which I believe it's Todd Phillips, I think that's the one who did this, he kind of leaked the script ahead of time, but that's not essentially what the movie is about. There were parts that they had to remove because of censorship, even though it's R-rated. There were parts of the story that didn't work, and it didn't make it into the final cut of the movie. It's not that they didn't shoot these scenes, it didn't make it into the final movie. My interpretation of this film comes from friends in the industry who've gone to the film festivals, and if you guys didn't know, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Joker has won a Golden Lion at the film festival, which is actually a big deal for comic book movies in general, because that is a very important award that leads to Oscars, I believe, and other really big film accomplishments. So if you didn't know, this film is actually currently circulating through these special film festivals before it releases in the theaters officially. So that's actually kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But one lady, Rachel, and I can't, because I don't want this video to get demonetized, I'm not going to read all the colorful language that she uses, but she is very upset because she believes that this is going to cause a lot of problems. So I'm going to read her just a snippet of her very, very, very long disdain with the Joker movie. So here we go. Okay, I pinpointed exactly what bothers me about this Joker movie. I didn't want to watch a movie that shows us the trauma that drove the Joker insane, which actually most comic book fans would kind of want to see that. That's why The Killing Joke was so successful.
Yeah, that's what the movie's supposed to be about.
I don't want to watch a movie where a well-intentioned but unstable man gets bullied until he turns into a mass murderer. I don't want to watch a man get rejected by a woman as an excuse for his future of domestic abuse. I don't want to watch a movie about a poor person, an unfortunate underdog who was sadly forced by circumstances that a nasty Batman to take up a life of crime. That doesn't make any sense what she wrote there. Like, so she
like
hates Batman too? Something like that? Okay.
Yeah, it's
I
not making sense.
don't want to have sympathy for a man best known for his robbery, murder, and there's no way I can get around this word. Rape! Shoved down my throat for 2 hours, which, from what I hear, there's actually none of that in the movie. There was stuff in hinted that Joker may have done some very lewd, dirty things, but it doesn't happen. That was in the script, but it didn't happen. So she's wrong in that. I don't want this to be sold as a relatable story that can happen to anyone with a bad enough day, and I don't want it to be around any of those lonely white boys who relate to it. Do you see where I'm getting at, Internet? I don't know if there is a good time for a movie that paints mass murder as the logical conclusion for a socially isolated society, and what is that word? Debatedly? Can you read? That's really tiny. What is that? Is debatedly, debating?
Where were you?
What do you mean?
Oh yeah. Socially something, society.
I can't really zoom in on tweets.
Where were you? Like down here?
You can't read that? It's right there.
I didn't know where you were.
Isolated.
Oh, okay. Okay, logical conclusion. That paints mass murder as the logical conclusion of a socially isolated, debatably neurodivergent white man.
You have to use fancy words in order to get your point across.
I didn't even know neurodivergent was a word.
She probably looked it up in the
failed
dictionary.
by the system.
All right.
Well, what? What is she on? I don't understand.
I don't know. Can I have some? I don't want to see a movie that idolizes a Joker when there are plenty of easily armed F-boys who already think he has the right idea. Name one. Without adding a tragic backstory to elicit sympathy. Nobody is going to see a Joker movie to feel bad about their own lives. I mean, this entire movie is supposed to be about the downtrodden of the poor rising up against the corrupt rich in this film. Because Joker is, like, made fun of by all of society. He has a horrible job. You see him in the trailer get beat up by people when he's just trying to smile at work, and, you know, he's trying to just find the fun side of life because his mom told him to smile and be happy and be kind and stuff, and just people on the street beat him up. I will say this spoiler because it's kind of interesting. Joker has a condition in this movie, how they put it. It's a psychological issue where when he's nervous, he laughs. And it's actually a real condition. There are people that suffer through this in real life. So they wanted to bring this mental element to Joker's character, along with he is possibly schizophrenic. He has tendencies for, what's that? It's not split personality. Although he does... How can I explain this? He may or may not see things that aren't there. And talk to things that don't exist, which it can be interpreted one way. I mean, these people could be real, or these animals like a cat, or they may not be.
I mean, there are so many psychological disorders. I don't even know how
this
to identify
movie
all of them.
is going to be a mind trip. You will have to see it repeatedly in order to know what is going on. And I, for one, based on all the crazy murder that's going to happen in the movie, because it is Joker, there are a lot of people that are going to die. I really don't like seeing R-rated movies where people just end up being, very serial killer based. That just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know you're not done. You're still gonna read stuff that
I
she's
still
saying.
have some more of her
But
crazy
can I
stuff.
just say, from what you're saying already, that I wasn't even gonna watch this movie. The fact that it's bothering her so much is making me want to watch it now.
54,000 likes and 16,000 retweets from this crazy person. It's insane.
This is what I'm getting from her. She doesn't want to watch a movie that's based on the perspective of any. She doesn't want to have empathy for somebody else that she doesn't agree with.
She doesn't have empathy for people.
I
It's
know,
her
and that's
it's her
why,
opinion or no one else's.
and that's why society is insane. That's why people are going crazy in society, because nobody cares about anyone else. I think that's kind of the point. That's kind of why Joker's so relatable, because yeah, everyone is one bad day. This is exactly why I originally didn't agree with the one bad day thing, but now I kind of do, because if you can't understand that all humans are the same and everyone has the potential to go completely insane because people completely treated you to the point where you can't take it anymore, then no, you're not a human being. You don't have any empathy if you can't understand that we're all the same.
It wasn't. Well, here's the thing that she's forgetting about this movie. This movie does not take place over the course of one day. Like in The Killing Joke, the comic, the famous Alan Moore thing, Joker snapped partially because of all the psychological stuff that happened to him. His wife and baby died as accidents, and the police were like, it's actually kind of tragic how they died, but also a little funny. And Joker's just kind of like, I don't really see how it's funny. They said, well, a baby monitor is what ended up either causing a fire or electrocuting her. And, both of them are gone. He had a simple mob job to do with them in the book, and something ended up going wrong where they were going to turn on him, and then Batman showed up. But all the stuff that transpired during that day wasn't really enough to put him over the edge. What happened to him is he was even trying to, in some incarnations, get help from Batman, and he got scared, he ran away, he tripped over something. It's not always Batman throws him into the vat of chemicals, but the chemicals screwed up his mind to the point where there was no recovery. And the first image that he saw when he took off his red helmet was this ghoulish clown staring at him, and that's when he snapped from reality.
All right, why don't, if you want, you can keep reading whatever it was.
No, that's the
I'm more interested in the plot of the movie than what this person has to say about it, because I think this person is insane.
Well, I have to be careful about the plot of the movie because of my ties to WB, so I can't spoil the entire movie. And they're also going to say, how did you see it? It's like, then I have to explain, because there is kind of an NDA, even though it's in film festivals. So, I mean...
Oh, it's not even out in theaters yet?
No.
Oh, I was wondering why I was the only person who never saw it. I was like, because I haven't been to the movie theater for a while.
These people are basically faking outrage over a script that not all of it is 100% accurate.
So the leak of what the movie is about, they don't even know if that's really all going to be in the movie anyway.
But let me finish Rachel's crazy thought here. So, after she said illicit sympathy, she says, I also don't want the narrative line to be drawn between mental illness and mass murder, as it is so often done in modern eras to Batman villains. Doesn't read comics. And is so common with the Joker in particular. I don't want it to get highlighted and underlined in, she said Sharpay as well? I have no idea. So then a bunch of other will say...
Basically, she has horrible opinions, so she looked up a bunch of words in a thesaurus so she could try to make her stupid opinion appear better.
When I think Sharpay, I think of that High School Musical character.
That's
I'm
exactly
thinking,
what
what do you have against Sharpay now? What is wrong with you?
Now she hates High School Musical.
I'm going to suggest that Rachel seek some professional help. I know that they're doing wonders with the mental health field, because... just by this post alone, you are egotistical, you have a lot of trust issues, you're very paranoid, and you need to be on some happy pills, like ASAP, because how do we know you're not going to just walk into a building and start offing white people? I mean, it's just very disturbing. So, another journalist friend, Heather, who has a long history of a lot of oopsies on Twitter, went and looked at this post from Rachel and decided that wasn't a crazy enough take. My take is going to be... after reading this and actually agreeing with this, she says, my problem with the Joker movie is exactly what Rachel says. So right now, Heather is insane. And Heather is, of course, from Image Comics. She's an editor who in the past has actually said she likes the Joker character. Not only that, but she can appreciate and understands the psychologicalness to the character of both the Joker and Punisher. Yet, here she is, in her sane mind, basically saying that the Joker movie is exactly like the movie theater incident in Colorado. I quote, "It was not that long ago when a socially isolated, disgruntled white guy felt wronged by society, quite literally dressed up as the Joker and, did that stuff to a movie theater in Colorado." She's the one who brought this up. It's not in the movie. What their thing is, there's a scene, and this is a spoiler, kind of, but they change it because, film adaptations. If you guys remember in The Dark Knight Returns, which I think we did a lore video on it, the Joker has been kind of in a vegetable state ever since Batman retired. And he has been, quote, cured by society, and he appears on television with his doctor, and kind of like a Conan O'Brien or a Johnny Carson type thing. I believe they were doing a Carson spoof back in the 80s when Frank Miller wrote this. But he's sitting there all calm and collective because, not necessarily does a murderer need to act like a crazy person. He's very composed. He's there. He's answering his questions. And then, for whatever reason, when he hears, he realizes Batman's back, he goes on television to announce his return as well. He calmly looks at the, not the MC, the dude behind the desk, the Jimmy Fallon character, whatever, shoots him, dead. Then he kills his psychiatrist, and then he pumps the audience full of his laughing gas, murders all those people. So there's a scene in the movie where they are borrowing from The Killing Joke. They borrow from Dark Knight Returns. They borrow from a couple other Joker stories, even though it's not a clear-cut Joker origin, we'll say. They use different parts pretty well, even though it's different. So my apologies to the director and Joaquin Phoenix for saying that they weren't going to do a lot with the Joker storylines, because they've actually done a pretty good job of blending a lot of controversial takes of the character. The Dark Knight Returns scene in the theater definitely was a pretty crazy thing that happened, like in that book, where he just wiped out the entire audience. Although he doesn't kill the entire audience. What he does is, after he takes care of the person who basically ruined his career, because the reason he ends up on the show to begin with is not to be a stand-up comic. He's actually there to be made fun of. Like, this high-powered society type brings the Joker into the television studio where they're filming his talk show, and they're there chatting, and he's trying to make fun of the Joker, but the Joker isn't laughing. Like, the Joker is in on the joke, and then he kills the guy, and then he addresses the nation and basically causes a riot. So, hence all the clown masks and all that other stuff. They're saying here that all that stuff that's happening in this movie is going to drive myself, and it's going to drive other white guys. White guys in particular are the ones that are going to be inspired by this movie, according to them.
Why would the color of a person watching matter? Like, how it inspires them. How do they know it would inspire me to go insane and be a criminal and be a mastermind? How do they know it's just gonna, like, it could inspire anyone to be violent? I mean, like, I'm inspired by people no matter what gender or color they are. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't understand why they think it would only affect, like, is there some kind of, like, secret, like, signal that is only gonna, like, affect people that are a certain, like, and also, like, I don't know, it just, like, there's so many different, like, our culture has so many different types of, like, ethnicities that it's really hard to even define, there's so many people
This is why I think these people, like, they are in need of a lot of mental health, because I've had a lot of people, since I'm talking about this lady, who, again, please seek professional help. Like, you are a danger to society, because her flip-flopping is very, almost like a split personality when you read her tweets. It's pretty disturbing, actually.
Wait, but then they're saying now...
Let me finish, please.
That if you're not, like, somehow the same ethnicity as the Joker, then you're not allowed to appreciate the movie or relate to him? I don't understand.
No. You
don't even understand what she's talking about.
Whoa, This is
Oh
what I
wait,
was.
I'm not allowed to relate to him.
No.
I'm not allowed to empathize with
No.
a person
No.
that has had a hard life and
No.
understand why.
You can't. No.
That's what I think. That's the most important part of the movie.
No,
though.
no, 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 no. Now you're getting in dangerous territory. You're not supposed to empathize with the Joker. You're
But
supposed
isn't
to
that-
understand that he is evil.
But isn't no? He's not though. That's the point. I mean, he is, but I'm saying society is evil. That's the whole point of the movie. Is society is insane.
No, that's not what Todd Phillips is saying at all.
Oh well, I don't understand. Then you continue. I'll listen to you.
Right, you're starting to scare me a little
All
bit
right.
now.
Okay,
All right, so
fine.
getting back to a split personality lady here. So not long ago, she was tweeting about how of all the people she would want to be, she would like to be the Joker because he's very relatable. And here we have her September 5th thing talking about the Colorado theater and basically damning the Joker. So which is it? Like, she goes back and forth like a person switching masks. One minute she is trying to be a normal, NPC, and the next minute she's wearing a clown mask. That to me, it just says so many dangers. But no, I am telling people right now, this is not a movie that you should relate to. This is a movie that is for entertainment only. It is over the course of the person's entire life that he snaps, and basically probably because he's talking to people that don't exist. Namely a cat and his mother, who may or may not already be dead. They are never going to confirm. It's like watching Inception, but on acid, even more so. No, Amber, your takes are starting to scare me now, personally.
What? What are you talking about? All right, I don't even know. Okay, I'll just listen to you. Were you gonna?
I'm gonna open up. No, Batman.
around?
Batman doesn't jump around at all until I'm done with my thoughts.
All right, I'm just gonna let you take it from here.
Just starting to scare me a little bit here.
I'm just trying to figure out what you're trying to say.
It's pretty evident what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So, another thing that happens with the movie, too, is they've made some interesting examples about how Joker basically does something very bad to the woman that he is dating, but the thing is, he's not really dating the woman. He has an infatuation with her, and she kind of humors him a little bit. You've seen her in the trailer. She is a single lady who has a kid, although it's later revealed that she actually does have someone, which the Joker may or may not kill this person. We don't know. There are a lot of crazy sequences that, again, in order to find out if a character survived or if they're really dead, you're going to have to watch the movie several times. And I personally couldn't withstand a mind trip like that. That just is asking too much for me. Even seeing the movie once, I'm a little bit terrified of some of the things that it's going to talk about, because it does mirror a lot of Frank Miller stuff. It mirrors some of the Joker stuff when he cut off his face. He doesn't do that in the movie, but I'm talking about like the psychological attitude and the way that the character interacts with things. He doesn't truly become himself until he adopts the Joker persona. He's a very skittish, afraid person, and the confidence comes from when he becomes the Clown Prince. And that's when all the crazy stuff is going to start happening. And, so a lot of the things that they're talking about with the Me Too movement is they're saying that this movie is going to make abuse much worse. Not true. You would have to go back and look at other movies that dealt with this. There's not really a lot of abuse that happens. One friend told me that Joker gets angry because he feels like he's been led on by this woman, which may or may not be the case. I don't know if she ever rejects his things, but he does show up in clown makeup to her. He does show up as normal Arthur. And, he thinks that if he had this woman, then maybe his life could have been a little bit better. But, of course, the Me Too movement is jumping on the bandwagon and saying that this is male toxicity. They're talking about how this has to do with men belittling women and all this other stuff. So, I mean, you can take it what it is, but the director and Joaquin Phoenix and even the actress who played the lady has come forward and said that's not the case about this movie at all. And I feel really bad that they had to spoil some aspects about the movie not being totally real, because when you're watching the movie, if you like those type of thrillers, you will be entertained, you will be confused, but at the same time, these type of films, it's like Butterfly Effect and all this other stuff all over again. If you like that kind of stuff, cool. But a lot of this outrage for the film is just drummed up for attention for some of these people. It's what is it, Amber?
All right, I was just gonna say that, like, I don't know, the parts where, like, they say she doesn't want to see something about, like, certain things that happen, like abuse or other really violent things or whatever. Like, if that kind of stuff wasn't involved in the story, then, like, isn't that kind of why he went crazy? Like, I don't really understand. Like, this stuff happens in real life. Like, she doesn't want to see a movie with that in it, but that happens in real life. So, like, it's like she doesn't want to say that she wants to deal with life. Like, I don't really understand. Like, I also I don't know if I also feel like people don't understand that, like, women, like, in, like, this country and in a lot of, like, Western countries, they're treated better than anywhere else in the entire world. Like, and I'm sorry, but some people say they're even treated better than men here because they get all these special privileges. I'm just saying, and that's just from. Okay, I'm done.
That can be interpreted in any way, like
done.
with that. So, but there are there are a lot of women that make more than men. It's been proven, but that doesn't really have any relation to this topic at hand.
Alright, I'm just done.
Okay, so where was I? This is usually why I do this stuff by myself, guys, because I lose my train of thought.
You were.
Let's see. I was going with. We were talking about. Oh, okay. So let's talk about how Thomas Wayne works into this, and I'll stick on this for now. So you can stay and listen if you want.
I was interested, but I'm just saying the wrong thing.
You're not saying the wrong thing.
Yes, I am.
You're just.
You said I'm too dark and weird.
No one relates to this movie. People are supposed to be disturbed when they see it. That's the whole point.
I've never seen it. I don't even know what it's about. I don't know what it's about.
It's about the Joker. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's get to the Thomas Wayne stuff. I did a lot of digging. I've talked to a bunch of people in the film industry, and because I was seriously concerned about the whole Thomas Wayne thing. So if you guys want to get off the movie, I'm going to talk about something that is concrete. It does happen. And we're going to clear the air, because if you guys have been worried about this, then you don't need to worry about this anymore. So more or less, the Thomas Wayne thing ends up being taken care of. I'm not going to tell you when it happens in the movie, because I myself am not even sure when it happens. But more or less, the mother has been lying to poor little Arthur for a very long time. She was a maid that worked at the Wayne estate. They don't say where. It could be Wayne Manor. It could be Wayne Enterprises. She was fired because of reasons, which I don't know if they really get into those reasons or not. It may have been a relationship that she had, like Thomas was cheating on his wife, or maybe she had like a super infatuation with Thomas. They don't really say, because the mother doesn't have that big of a role in the movie as you're led to believe from the trailers. So, for part of the film, he believes that Thomas is his dad. And then when he finds out that Thomas isn't his dad, and that basically the person who abused him for most of his life was actually his father, who he ends up killing, getting back at him, he also, I believe, wants to kill Thomas, or he wants Thomas to not be mayor or something. It's confusing, Joker's reasoning for a lot of things. And there's a lot of dancing, there's a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, I'm the kind of person that I never really saw The Shining and a lot of those really disturbing films, because while they may be interesting for other people, I don't like things about psychological trauma and stuff like that. I don't mind reading like Batman stories where, there's a character study of, some type of problem that Two-Face deals with that Dini or somebody adapted for the animated series or something, because I feel like they flesh that out a little bit better, and they make it more PG instead of like, the really gritty nastiness of the world. And I do get nervous with a lot of the mental things that they're going to do and show in not really a positive light. Arthur is going to go after I believe the person he is working with at like a mental ward or something. He kills a lot of people. Some for just reasons because he's a Joker, and others because he just realizes that they're part of the reason why he's crazy, which may or may not be the case. So if you like that kind of stuff, cool. But there's a couple things going around about Thomas that may change how the Batman story relates and also may connect to Matt Reeves' films. In fact, I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but Robert Pattinson, whatever his name is, Pattinson, Vampire Boy, he had some slip-ups, I think it was last week, when he was talking about the Joker movie, and he didn't necessarily say it was connected, but he was the first one that said that the movie would have to be viewed more than once to understand everything that happens to it and how it relates to Batman. And then afterwards, he was like, wait, nope, I wasn't supposed to say that. Because Batman doesn't really show up, but Bruce Wayne does as a child, which you guys have seen. And there are a couple things that could happen with that. Bruce's parents could be killed at Wayne Manor, or they could be killed at the movie theater. But one thing does happen that is constant in both the leaks and from things that I've heard from people that have seen the movie at film festivals. Bruce does fall into a well, which is very similar to the Batman Forever thing, the Batman Begins thing, and a character pulls him out of the well. It could be Alfred, it could be who knows. But that is going to be the connection between this and the Reeves stuff. Whether or not this is an Elseworlds movie or what have you, there is some Batman elements near the end of the film. The Waynes still end up getting killed in this movie, which Bruce is supposed to be around that age where his parents are dead. It's just their way they die is going to be different. That may cause controversy or not. You know, it all depends how you feel about it. If you're cool with a mob basically going after the Waynes for essentially being better off than them and maybe not using their money appropriately to help the poor, it is definitely a poor versus rich film. It has a poor mindset, and you feel for the character in the beginning, but then when you see all the things that he does, you don't really know what type of movie you're watching anymore. So one journalist that is a friend of mine who saw it at a film festival, he said that he felt bad because at one point he wanted to root for Arthur, but another point he hated the Joker. And it just it made him disgusted, but at the same time, he said it was a fantastic film, and this is the type of film that's going to win awards. Another person was just so disturbed by it, they walked out halfway through the movie. So, I mean, I really don't know what to think about it. I don't know if this is still a Joker movie or whatever, but Joker doesn't really have an origin. And the brilliant thing that this movie does is, in a sense, he really doesn't have an origin because you don't know, even when you're watching it, what is going to be real that actually happens in this universe and what doesn't. It's crazy. So some of the outrage that's being faked for drumming up clicks for these attention seekers, some of it may be true, and some of it is just far out there. Yes, I am very confident that the television scene happens in some capacity. I don't think that Joker's going to go and kill everyone in the audience and gun them down because he doesn't have like a mob group yet. It's not like he's a mob boss. He's just a normal average day guy who just starts killing people, but not like in the studio. He kills the host, I think the Robert De Niro character, who's basically reprising his stand-up role from something else. And the reason why he does that is because pretty much Joker's been humiliated, or Arthur has. And one of the reasons why Joker says, when you announce me on your show, say my name is Joker. And the guy's like, Joker? Okay. So he still plans on basically blasting Joker and humiliating him even more. And of course, Joker gets the last laugh in that sense. But it's pretty twisted, you know? You don't really see it coming. It's just kind of like, there he is one moment, and then Joker does his thing, and then it's like, ta-da! Not as fast as the magic trick thing from The Dark Knight. That's still pretty disturbing, you know? It's gone! Like, you know, things like that, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
I still Wait. Okay, I am not so dark because I actually couldn't. I still have not watched the first 30 minutes of The Dark Knight. Ever. I still
The
won't.
bank scene?
No, the 30. The first. I don't want to talk about it. The pencil thing.
It's not the first 30 minutes of the
Yes,
movie.
well, I close my eyes through the first 30 minutes and I never will watch
So
that.
you skip the bank scene, you skip,
whatever
I'm not
it
wearing
was,
hockey
Luke,
pants.
I didn't open my eyes, okay? Alright. I was just gonna say, what you're talking about where you feel for the character when they're a villain and you understand why they became a villain. Okay, this is how I always feel like when the world is really cruel to you and life is unfair, like, you can that's why I love comic books. You can either choose to become a hero or a villain. But sometimes the people, like, that are the cruelest are, like, the rich people on top that keep pushing down on people that have nothing over and over again until you can't take it anymore. But then in reality, they're not the ones that become the real supervillains. It's the people where life is unfair to that becomes the supervillains.
This movie...
That's what I think is... I mean, it makes sense. We're just describing a supervillain from a comic book.
This film really has the rich versus the poor mindset, and it's not like in Batman Begins where Bruce Wayne's family was actually trying to help the poor. They're taking advantage of people. I would say that the Thomas Wayne character in this movie is very similar to Roland Daggett. Roland Daggett was a businessman in the 70s and 80s Batman comics that did a lot of bad things to the poor folks of Gotham. He would, get people evicted from their apartments and knock them down and build, like, shopping centers. He would treat the homeless badly. He would do whatever he could to cause problems for the impoverished. And Thomas is not really the hero of the movie. Even him running for mayor is a very bad thing because it's going to get worse for everybody except for the 1%. Mm-hmm. So this take on Thomas Wayne is very similar to Earth 2 Thomas Wayne, from like an Elseworld story where Thomas is basically a mob boss, and the Telltale Batman where Thomas was essentially a mob boss. So you don't really feel bad for the Waynes being killed. I don't think Martha is evil in a sense, and maybe she's not aware of her husband's activities. Or, we still don't know if he is a member of the mob or not. He is bad. He does bad things, and he hides behind all his money to look like he's a good person. And the Joker doesn't like that. That's a big issue. So, I mean, there were some really good actors attached to play this Thomas Wayne in the beginning, and they decided against it because they didn't like the direction that Thomas was going. And also, some of them didn't like some of the views of, how the poor were treated in the movie and things like that. So, I mean, it went all over the place with things.
Yeah, but poor people are treated badly.
Yeah.
I know that because I grew up in a bad neighborhood, and in the nice neighborhoods, there were 2 kids to a seat for their buses. They had plenty of buses. We had 1 bus for our entire horrible neighborhood, and they were stacking 5 or 6 kids to a seat. And, like, we had to, like, sit on each other's laps, like, or just stand in the middle of the bus because apparently us poor kids weren't enough. There wasn't enough buses.
Poor kids is not a good enough example. Remember, you were on the very.
I know what you called my neighborhood.
And it was calling it the ghetto was not. I mean, for that part of the town we lived in, that was the ghetto.
I'm saying people wondered why there were fights on our bus, and then they wonder why kids fought on the bus. Let's see, nobody could get a seat, and then they always blame that on poor kids. Like, oh, you're just whatever they call Aladdin. I don't know.
Street rat.
Yeah, but I don't know. I forgot what I was gonna say, but like oh my gosh, I just feel like, what was I gonna say before?
Try to think of it.
Okay, I had 2 different things I was gonna say. I can't remember the first thing, but I do remember the second thing. here's the second thing I was gonna say. I can't remember the first thing, but the second thing is that if this lady is experiencing such a violent reaction to this inside of her, like it's bothering her so much. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is the whole point of the movie. I've never seen it, but I get the feeling like some of this movie is about, the things that you say to people and how it affects them and drives them insane because you keep putting them down. Maybe her abrasive nature online and the way she's always mistreating people online and saying rude things to people and putting people in categories and, just saying really rude, ignorant things to people all the time that are hateful and mean. Maybe she thinks, oh, this is just the way I get ahead in life. This isn't going to affect anyone. Maybe secretly in her mind, watching this movie, it made her actually think, hey, maybe there's actually consequences for me, destroying people with my words on a daily basis and trying to basically say the most hateful thing I can think of out of my mouth.
Oh, these people attack the industry that they work in. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if Rachel is a comic book person, but Heather is an editor of a comic book thing, and she blasts fans all the time for having a different opinion than her, and she's just a terrible human being.
But
personally.
I'm saying, like, if somebody like that is talking like that online, imagine how rude they're being to their barista or the person at the counter when they're ordering clothes at, like the mall or whatever. I mean, these people don't change their personality because they're mean to everyone. Imagine maybe she feels bad about herself from watching this movie and like, hey, like, whoa.
I feel that the people that are going to be bashing this movie and doing the hot takes, I said it myself a while ago on Twitter. It was actually a 3 a.m. post, but I was talking about how the fake outrage over this film, like with them gathering all this attention, the reason why they're also choosing now to speak out against a movie that doesn't even release for like another month or so is they have a lot of not just insecurities of themselves, but also they feel bad about what they did in their life in the past. Like, the reason why they don't like seeing that this person was bullied and beaten down and, grew up to be this, mass murderer is because when they were in high school, they were the cheerleaders, they were the jocks, they were the high society types that were basically, there was one or two kids in their class that they just bullied to death. And in the back of their mind, they would be utterly horrified if all that stuff they did to that person came back and bit them in the butt. Like, if it came back and that person killed them or went on a killing spree, and they wouldn't actually believe that their consequences in that person's life is what pushed that person too far, when just for a day they could have just been nice or they couldn't have bullied that person. A lot of the people who are outraged over this, I've looked some of them up. I've seen some of the things that they did. Some of them were cheerleaders. Some of them were like the class president of their high school. Some of them went to very private schools, and they are exactly that stereotype of someone who pushes someone down. And the fact that they're speaking out against these people that are hurting, these people that are isolated, these people that are different than them, and they're so angered by seeing that what they did could cause a different type of reaction than they think. They think that they can go and they push people around their whole life. I know for a fact there are people in my high school from 15, 20 years ago. They told me to my face that I was, because I wore a very dark coat, I wore black colors, I had my hair slicked back. They told me every day that I was going to, after Columbine, because I hated them so much and I was so isolated and quiet, I was going to come back and kill everyone. They told me that every day. Now, they didn't pay attention to the fact that I was sitting at my table one day playing a Game Boy, or the next day reading my Bible at lunch, but one of the cheerleaders there decided, because I was sitting and talking to the quiet kids, because in the back of my mind, yes, I was concerned that the quiet kids that were bullied, who owned guns, were going to come to that school and kill everyone, especially after seeing what the kids at Columbine did. So I was sitting there eating lunch with them, and it was my senior year. So this is a year after Columbine.
Oh my
gosh.
And,
I'm sitting there talking. I'm not going to say the girl's name. She walked up with her lunch because she was so afraid of me. She decided to dump her lunch all over me.
Wow.
And told me to get out of the lunchroom. She also ruined my Bible, which, yeah, I did get mad.
that's the thing I don't understand. Like, I'm actually dealing with a bullying situation in my class right now.
I'm not done.
But I won't talk about it. But it really bothers me, their mindset of, this person is different than me, therefore I will mistreat them as much as possible. Maybe they'll disappear. It's like, no. They will never disappear. They're a human being. They deserve to exist. Whatever you're doing to them, you are literally being extremely cruel to another human being, which is actually wrong. Which is actually a crime against humanity. Okay, continue.
Thank you for interrupting me.
Sorry.
So, there was a couple things I could have done. Honestly, I wanted to kind of become that villain that the school was trying to paint me, because they didn't like me. They didn't like what I did. I was older than everybody, because I was like, I got held back by teachers in grade school because my learning disabilities and dyslexia and other things made, regular school stuff hard. Teachers hated me. I didn't challenge authority. It took me a while to develop mentally, like to an intellectual state. And it didn't happen in high school. It happened in college. And then I was doing like all the I was getting A+ in history and government and, all kinds of different stuff. I did really well in college. I did terrible in high school and grade school, but I excelled in college, especially when it came to writing and all this other stuff. So I could have become the villain that I was painted to be, but I brushed myself off. I really, really wanted to grab her head and slam it into the seat where I was sitting and make her clean up the mess she just made, but I didn't do it. With the grace of God, I held back. I breathed very slowly. My jacket was ruined. I was very angry, though, because it was like that red juice stuff. It was one of my favorite leather jackets.
I love that jacket.
No, it wasn't that one. I had 2 leather jackets. This was the one I had to throw out.
You look great in leather jackets.
And the other one got ruined when I was helping build a church, and I leaned back up against a wall I didn't realize was fresh paint, and it got ruined. So I ruined 2 jackets in the course of 2.5 years, and I didn't have a lot of money. I come from a pastor's family, so poor. I was poor my whole life until I started working at 16, and I started making my own income and finding ways to make money. But anyway, so that scene happened. I know that the kid next to me was horrified that they did this, because I wasn't doing anything. I just, I didn't really try to reach out to a lot of the high school people because I saw them as immature. I was almost 2 years older than them. My senior year, I would have been 19 or 18 years old, and they were 17 or 16, something like that. So there was a huge age difference. Like the girls in my school were all immature brats. We were outside of Chicago, so they were, not my type. They were the kind of girls that you just like, that they peak in high school. So, I got up calmly. I did stop that other kid from doing something because he was mad enough to be like, we got to get even. I was like, no, that's exactly, you don't want to do that. So I took the kid, we left school. I don't remember where we went. I think we went to a game store or something. I just hung out with that kid the rest of the day, went home, and I went to my guidance counselor the next day, and I was like, how many credits do I need to graduate? And he was like, well, if you do this and this, we should get you out in, about 6 months. I said, do it. And, that was one of my driving factors to get out. And I wasn't a super intelligent kid, but yeah, the bullying and all the like people thinking that I was going to become like this horrible person was definitely fueled to get me out of that and get into college. So getting back to these crazies on Twitter, and they are crazy. Like most of these people who start these little movements like Me Too and Kick Vic and all this other stuff, they are deranged individuals. Like they are not sane, where they create like these massive cults where they call people incels and do all these horrible things on a daily basis. It's sad that they have no lives. It really is. But they are very dangerous because they are actually instilling a lot of these things into people's minds that no one's even thinking about. When you go and see a movie, I promise you're not thinking, how can I get back at that person like Joker did? The people who are saying and crying wolf are the people that have done bad things in their past to people, and they are worried that these people are going to be inspired by a movie. And I
That's-
promise you,
That's what I think it is,
I
Luke.
promise you, those people have moved on with their lives. They see you as nothing more than an insignificant spat of existence, that they're too busy enjoying their life to even be worried about what you're doing. I don't even care about the kids in high school.
I
know most of them are 400 pounds. They live with their parents. They never left that town in Chicago. They are still there. You know, it's like Biff from Back to the Future, except poorer and more bitter, and only talking about what happened in high school.
I remember what I was going to say about comic book related. So basically that's what we're kind of talking about today, is like, this lady is trying to say that people who watch the Joker movie are going to be inspired to be like Joker, basically. But she said other things that were more offensive than that. Like, anyway.
I was offended at the Colorado thing.
Yeah, oh, of course. But what I remember, what I was going to say is, we were talking about how Joker was pressed down by Thomas Wayne, is it, or whatever? And
Everybody.
He
kills everybody that messed with him.
I wanted to talk about another comic book Batman movie that kind of illustrates that point about who the real villain is, like, perfectly. It was one of the most, like, it illustrates that point better than any movie I've ever seen. That Batman 1989 movie with Catwoman, where
92.
92, where Catwoman is the actual supervillain, but who's the real villain?
Maxwell Shrek.
Exactly. So, like, that's what they don't... like, that was the first movie I ever saw that was like, he's actually the real villain. She's the one with her life destroyed in the costume, but who's the real evil person? The guy with his life all together, who's calmly, psychopathically, just ruining people's lives with no consequences. And that's like all the, the rich, powerful people that are ruining the Joker's life. And I think that's kind of what it shows. It's showing truth on the screen that they don't want to deal with, basically.
Yeah. I mean, people don't want to admit that their actions have consequences. When you bully people instead of trying to be kind to people, yes, there's a possibility that that person could someday end your life because you have made their life miserable for 4 years, 10 years, and it builds. And if more people are still mean to this individual, it's not that they can't handle reality. They give up. And that's it. Joker in this movie, his entire life was like this. There is a lot of touchy stuff. There's abuse from family members. There's abuse from work. There's abuse from social workers, which personally I hate social workers. I wish that they didn't exist and their jobs were gone. But every bad thing that you can happen, because it's a movie, happens to this Joker. He tries to get help from society. Society pushes him down. Tries to get help from mental people. They look down on him. They don't think he's a problem. He ends up killing them. The social worker that was trying to help him was not a nice person. He killed that person. So, I mean, it just goes... It's not just, okay, I decided to do this. In the movie, he has, like, multiple reasons, supposedly, why he does what he does. I like to believe he snaps, but I don't know. It could kind of be like that Christian Bale serial killer movie where he's just evil. Like, that's who he is. He's evil. It's not a movie that anybody should relate to. It's not a superhero movie. This is the first super villain comic book movie. There is no point A to B about why he does things. Kind of you can see why he does things, but he doesn't have to actually go and do that. He does, but, it's not... When people are calling this a superhero movie that are, like, bashing it down, and there's only a handful of people, but unfortunately, there are a handful of people that have a very loud voice. They have a very big following, and they're in those right social circles where they can make this a bigger fire than it needs to be, unfortunately. There's no way to silence these people. They're not really comic book fans. When you mention orange hair for the Joker, that basically makes you not a fan. That makes you a moron. Because any idiot can type in the Joker, and even on Google Images, within 5 seconds, you would realize that the Joker has white face or makeup, red lips, and green hair. That is an iconic trait that has lasted for 80 years. Only an imbecile would not know that Joker. It just, that to me, stupid people bother me. Stupid people that don't research when they do their little Twitter, seizures. They don't get this stuff. You don't even have to be a comic book fan. You just have to be a thinking person. But the problem that I have with a lot of SJWs and NPC people is they don't think. They aren't really leaders. They're more like followers. She didn't say this. Rachel said it first, and then Heather said it, and then there was like a whole line of psychos who followed. They just kind of like this massive echo chamber that just keeps unleashing stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like they come up with this idea themselves. They get it from somebody else, and then they just keep going and going and going and going and going. And they never stop either. Like, they create their own little groups, and that's the dangerous stuff. The thing that I'm getting about the fake outrage, the real problem, and I really believe that Heather should delete her tweet because she is going to inspire the next mass shooter. Yeah. So is Rachel, not the Joker movie.
She's giving people the idea. Nobody even thought of that.
No.
Like, why aren't they going after her about that? But yeah, she also said some other controversial things that I don't think you talked to me about before we started talking.
Well, I can't really quote it because there's a lot of F-bombs and other things.
We can't actually talk about it because, well, basically,
when you bring attention to something, that's when it causes problems. The movie itself would fly under the radar, and nobody would be thinking about the real-life implications that this could have. But the more people that break down comic book characters like this, there's a possibility that problems can arise from it. So you need to stop talking about it. You need to stop outraging over something that may or may not even be in the film. It's absolutely insane. And like I said, Heather and Rachel and all those crazy journalists that have been talking about this for over a week now, they need professional help.
Yeah, I mean, they also started talking about some feminism kind of oriented things, like how, it's fine if Joker blows up a building of people as long as there are no women in there. I'm really concerned if he does violence against a woman. Now
he's an equal opportunity psycho.
I'm angry. This is what I don't understand. Do they not understand, number one, he's insane, and number two, he's a villain? Oh, I'm a villain, I'm gonna blow up the whole world. Oh, there's a woman. Wait, let me stop myself. What? Oh, wait, there's a squirrel. I don't believe in blowing up squirrels. Wait, I have a long list of PC rules. What? Why would an insane villain have rules? What? Why are these...
Oh, there would be a boy cat if he hurt the cat in the movie. He just talks to it.
See, that's what I think is stupid about today's society. Why are there rules about what a villain would do? He's a villain. He wouldn't have any rules.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to be outraged over something, if Batman, just slapped Catwoman in the movie or something, yeah, go full force, misogynistic, all this other crap. But a bad guy? You're going to choose your hill to die on talking about a villain. Wait. A villain doing bad things. I mean, come on, internet. This is just stupid. It's a villain. What do you think he's going to do? Sit around in a park with puppies and tell a nice story? He is going to kill people. He is the Joker. What does Joker do? Murder. Come on. Really?
That's what I don't understand about her posts is that not only does she make up these weird things oh, I don't care if this many men die as long as not one woman does, but then she goes on to say, well, men are gonna watch this and then become the Joker because... And then she starts insulting men. She goes on this list. You remember what I'm talking about. She starts saying the type of men that would do this. Men that can't get a girlfriend. Men that can't do this. She's insulting. What? You're insulting these non-existent people that you've decided are going to watch this movie and become the Joker, even though none of these people exist. It's in your mind.
No, serious.
That's what I don't understand. She's insulting imaginary people. Who's hallucinating now? I'm just saying.
Things that I've seen, I will tell you the problem that I have, okay? And I'm going to bring this up because this is something that Frank Miller predicted. Okay, boys and girls, it's history class time. So Frank Miller who everybody calls paranoid and, insane. And maybe there are some things about Frank that are a little, batty. But one thing that he was right about that terrifies me to this day is how out of control he said the media would become, how they would spin things the way that they do. In the book of The Dark Knight Returns, the media is part of the villain in The Dark Knight Returns. They're anti-Batman, they're anti-government. Whatever they're told to do, they do, and they spin it in order to meet their agenda. This was back before we even had news shows where people would not just have the news, they would actually have a program afterwards discussing the news story for the next 60 minutes. When I was a kid, here's the difference, ladies and gentlemen. When I was a kid, news lasted maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and they would go from story to story to story. For the past 25 years, you have had news outlets that make an entire segment out of one snippet of news. They turn into a 60-minute discussion with two sides arguing back and forth. Now, what kind of stuff has happened because of that? I'll tell you, when I was a kid, we didn't have mass shooters all the time. We didn't have people getting, shanked or things blowing up all the time. When the news came on, it was like there's maybe an escaped convict running around New York City or something. Or, there's a bad storm coming. Or news at 6. News would last for, I don't know, half hour, and then they put on Murder, She Wrote or something else. You have a 24-hour cycle of stuff being fed to you nonstop, and it's gonna turn someone into the Joker. It really is, because nobody is supposed to know what's going on with the world 24/7. The world is bad. The world was bad in the 90s. We had wars. We had all kinds of problems, but you didn't know about it every single day, and you didn't know what the president's socks color were. You didn't know about every single thing that every other politician thinks on Twitter. A lot of these things are going to come to a boiling pot, and then boom! It's going to happen, and Frank Miller predicted it. So the problem that people should have is where we have come as a society. And the thing that people hate about Frank is, oh, Frank, the news isn't like that. You painted the news. This was back in the 80s when he would do Comic-Con panels. They would be like, Frank, we don't understand where you're going with the news. Well, he says, in my future, I see the media going so far out of control that they're a villain in themselves. And DC was like, that's never going to happen. That's the one thing DC hated about, and a lot of people who hate Frank Miller, they hated his take on the media back in the 80s because it didn't exist.
Well, actually, the reality is there's a lot of people that say the media there's actually on every issue that there's about 7 main opinions about it. Mostly some major issues, there's 50, 100, thousands of different opinions of how it can be solved. But what the media does is they pick 2 different opinions, and then they pretend that those are the only 2 sides. And then if you both of those sides, usually they'll pick are very insane takes. Neither of the sides are reasonable. They never pick reasonable sides.
They don't have anybody in the middle that can really delegate anything either.
Well, actually, I mean, there are other opinions that aren't even in the middle of those. There could be opinions that are completely different.
That's not what I'm saying.
All right.
I'm saying when they have these programs, and exactly in Frank's book, you had one side in the book, it was pro-Batman or anti-Batman. There was no person in the middle in Frank's book trying to be reasonable.
Yeah, I know.
Today, you have one news program, you have one person that's either a Democrat and a Republican or conservative and liberal, and they fight every program. There's no person in the middle to be like, okay, that's your take, let's move on to something else. Okay. There is no moving on.
But what I'm trying to say is they were the ones who made those terms to begin with. They made those categories to begin with. Human beings have different opinions on everything. They put us into categories. They're the ones who chose those categories. But that's That's what I'm trying to say. They force you into saying, "Oh, if you're not with Team Blue, then or if you're not with Team Yellow, then you must be with Team Green." But there's like you could be on neither team.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
If you see this movie, they're going to say that you are an incel. They're going to say that you're uneducated, and they're going to say, as if you're a white person, they're going to say you're going to become a killer. So I mean, they're trying to put fear into you for seeing a comic book movie, and I really wish that these people, I wish they could go away. I wish they could go on an idiot bus and never come back. And, you know, they are allowed to say their wrong opinion, but it's very dangerous. And the fact that they've created this echo chamber where there are people watching this. There are people who are not going to see the Joker movie, and they're like, wow, Joker stands up to the man, which he may or may not in the movie, and starts a huge riot of people destroying the government in the movie and all this other stuff. Is that really, can that be something that I do? When you have all these people dissecting parts of the movie on Twitter and screaming at the parts that they're terrified of, but also chastising people that aren't even thinking about this, that to me is the danger. That's the problem. And those are the people that you need to send a clown mask and a little card and say, you're going to Clown University. You know, those are the people where those memes are accepted because they're the dangerous ones. So, but anyway, I'm going to open up the floor to you guys. You can ask me some questions about the movie. Like I said, I have to be wary of spoilers. We're going to run around Gotham, all that fun stuff, so you guys don't have to see the moon and all the other fun stuff. So,
Can I say something that's been in the chat here that was
Sure.
a very, and I think that this comment was a while ago. I don't know who said it, but I think that this is a comment that someone should reply to these ladies talking about this online. They might be ignorant.
Well, there are guys doing it too. It's not.
I know. But
I couldn't.
Whoever is talking about this online, saying that watching this
50,000
movie will turn
people?
you into a mass murder or whatever. So basically, there's somebody in the chat that said a while ago, you know that there has been a female Joker.
Yeah.
So, like, why are they saying only like, they're saying only, like, I could become a supervillain. How come I can't also? Like, that's not fair. And why are they saying only one race can become a supervillain? That's not fair. We should all be able to become supervillains, okay?
That's a hot
Like,
take.
this is not... And I actually can't... Oh, someone said that was me. Thank you, Lilith. Awesome
Nice
comment.
job, Lilith. It's a good comment.
And also somebody said something about how Ferris Boyle was the real villain when it came to Victor Freeze, because Victor Freeze is the tragic. Because that's the great thing about DC Comics is that, you know, these villains are tragic because you do feel for them and you realize that everyone was a good person at one point. We don't come out of, we aren't little babies and you see little, like, evil red eyes in us and we become villain. Society, like, it just gets hard. Life is hard. And you have to make the decision you can. Sometimes you've been treated so badly that you just snap, and that's just what happens. Like, and I think that people just feel uncomfortable dealing with that reality. That's why they feel uncomfortable dealing with this movie, because they don't want to believe. They just want to be like, oh, these people have always been evil. No, people try. Every single person on Earth tries to be good. They really do. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
I do believe that with all my heart. We all try. Life is just really hard. And sometimes you just...
That's why when I was talking to my friend about the Joker movie, when I had that phone call, the guy who saw it at the film festival, and he said, you know, part of the movie, he feels for Arthur in the beginning. How Arthur is beaten down by so many aspects of society that he's reaching out for help, both at home, with kind of the mental abuse that he's getting from his mother. At the same time, the mother can't take care of herself, so the Joker's taking care of his mother, even to the point where she comes very sick and has to go to the hospital, and he doesn't really have any money to pay for it. He's still trying to be a good son, while at the same time, she's like trying to manipulate him into going to see Thomas Wayne because you're his son. You're the illegitimate heir of, you know, so she, even when she's basically on her deathbed, she's messing with the guy, which is messed up. And when speaking to him, it's just kind of like, well, yeah, I mean that could be a factor that could cause somebody to snap, I suppose. But he says, he says, part of me felt so disturbed after seeing this movie because I think part of me really wanted Arthur to win, even though Arthur ends up in Arkham at the end for all the horrible things he did. He says, I feel disturbed that part of me, a film critic, wanted the bad guy to win. Even though all these people were dying, he says, I had to take a good look at myself in the mirror afterwards because this movie just made me feel uncomfortable. It made me feel things that I don't normally feel seeing a movie.
To feel empathy with somebody who is doing something evil because they're so...
He does a lot of evil in the movie.
I know, doing a lot of evil because they're so hurt.
There's like a tonal shift.
But I'm not trying... Because, okay, I have to be careful with how much I empathize with people because people don't maybe not know about this about me, but I've gone through a lot of stuff in my life, and I have anger issues that are not normal. So sometimes I have to deal with them myself. That's why I think I like Batman.
That's why no spears.
That's why I don't get a spear. But I am saying that it is normal to watch a movie and see somebody to Arthur or to the Joker. For him to win would be for him to get away with it and do every kind of destructive thing he would think about doing and just get away with it and nobody would know. And I guess that would be for him to win. And if you've seen all the horrible things he's gone through, part of you would want him to just get away with it and win. I mean, we play Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem people do that to each other all the time. They're, it's just, I mean, that's what it is. Okay, we have a comment from Skull Rants and says, if people didn't show criminals on the media, they probably wouldn't have as many crimes and shootings and stuff.
And they wouldn't have as many copycats trying to compete for fame either.
Right, I agree with that. We had 1,000,000%.
We had some really, really, scary things happen in the 80s and 90s. But I really believe the difference is that people weren't talking about it all the time. I don't know why anybody decided it was a good idea for the news to be continuous. If people knew all the tragedies of World War II, I don't think we would have won World War II. I think that, like Vietnam, we would have left.
Oh, yeah, because...
And Hitler would have won.
When the media covers it and then shows, hey, your side of the war isn't... your side of it isn't perfect either. Look
what these soldiers are doing.
Maybe you
Look
should
what's going on.
question yourself, and maybe you shouldn't be... then you're going to lose faith in your own side and think, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm wholeheartedly in this. If you're not wholeheartedly in it, then of course you're not in it to win it, and then you're not going to be full force fighting the enemy, and then you're going to lose. I do believe that.
Because of how old the technology was in the 40s and stuff, you would have to go to a special theater in order to get an update on the war. And they actually, in America at least, they censored a lot of the footage that was brought back of the boys because they didn't want to show what was really happening. If the American public knew all the bad stuff that was happening to our boys out there, I mean, to just think how quickly things would have turned. And who knows where we'd be today.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, Luke doesn't, censor me. He doesn't say I can't say my opinion. He knows that I'm going to say something that I probably wish I hadn't have said. So
yeah, this is live. This can't be edited.
He's trying to help me, not say the wrong thing. So that's why. My husband is my best friend. He doesn't, if he didn't care about me, then he would just be fine, embarrass yourself, say whatever you feel like. But, he's just being my friend. I don't think see, this is what the whole thing, the problem with these women, they're not all women. But what I don't like about some feminist people online is they make enmity between men and women. Kind of like that anime where men and women are going to war.
You brought that old anime up?
Luke and I are married, but we are friends. I don't know if feminists know what that means, but he is my friend. Like, we are friends. We are married, but we are also friends. I trust him. Like, if he says, like, maybe you shouldn't say this, Amber, he's saying that to me as my friend. Just like Batman would say.
Some of the things you say are scary.
That's why, I mean, I think that's why Batman is so relatable, though, because, like, that is why he is the only one who can conquer the Joker, is because he has been there. He's the only one that the Joker can relate to, because he has been there. He has looked into the abyss. He has struggled with the same...
Yeah, Batman's not in this movie.
I know,
except for Bruce.
But I'm just saying that's why we all like Batman.
That's partially why I don't want to see the Joker movie, is because I don't want to see Bruce Wayne get traumatized by,
all right, I'm supposed to be
a Joker character. Yeah, because people are asking us questions.
All right, someone said you lost me. All right, so I'm going to read the chat. I'm not going to give my opinion anymore. I'm just reading your comments.
This will be interesting.
How does Arkham Asylum factor into this movie?
Okay, Arkham Asylum is kind of like a, it's a place where people with mental illness go. Joker ends up in there at the end of the movie. And also some other people in Joker's life, without giving spoilers, are going to end up in this facility. I believe Arkham Asylum also changes over the course of the movie. Like, you're going to see it from a different lens. You're going to see it from a lens that helps people. And Arthur is also going to see it as a lens where Arkham is a very bad place, where people get hurt. So some of those things, like in these hospitals where people really get hurt and they get mistreated, Joker sees both of these things. And I don't know if he could tell the difference between the two, or, just basically demonized everybody that worked there, because he sees some atrocities in Arkham. Like happen to patients and things like that. And at the same time, he also sees how some social workers are, on the surface, trying to help people, but they're okay with this kind of torture of people in Arkham. I mean, like I said, there's so many different things that may or may not be real when you see this movie. I mean, it's filmed, don't get me wrong. The person on the gurney that's acting all crazy, being sent to Arkham, that's going to be tortured, and Arthur witnesses it. Yeah, that happens. That was shot. That was filmed. Whether or not what Arthur is seeing, is it real or not? That's what you'll never know. It's like, I don't even know if the director's ever going to come forward and say what is and what isn't. Like, that's why this movie is probably going to win an Oscar, which I don't know if it should. I mean, it would be a win for comic books, yay, but at the same time, I mean, this movie, it has a lot of stuff in it that's pretty crazy. I don't know. I don't know. But yes, Arkham is in the movie. It plays a big role. It's kind of like a side character or a sub-character. It's a subplot in the film. It's shown at different parts during Arthur's life, I think like once or twice, and it plays a big role at the end of the movie. As well as there's a lot of songs from the 70s that Joker dances to that you may not want to listen to those songs again. So, yeah.
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 Yeah, John Doe is saying, in this universe called Arkham State Hospital, I think.
Yes, it's still called Arkham State Hospital in the movie, yes.
That's why I don't like hospitals.
Okay.
All right.
It's not like Gotham City Hospital. It is a state-run. That's the key there. It is a state-run hospital.
Interesting. Where everything is.
It's not.
I'm not gonna go into that.
In this universe, Arkham is not a private institution. It is a state-run thing.
How did you get invited to watch the movie?
I didn't get invited. I have friends who were film critics, and they saw it at a film festival. It's running at a couple film festivals currently. And they did their best to try to explain to me, because they told me personally, because what was going to happen, I was going to talk about this last week, and then the outrage happened, and it's like, well, how can I talk about the film while also debunking the outrage? So that's kind of how this stream happened, because last week, after my 10-hour Batman stream, that's when I heard more about, the film festivals, and they hadn't decided a winner yet, but,
Yeah,
I got a call from a friend of mine, and he told me about the movie, and then I had another friend write me a very lengthy email about why they hated the movie. So I'm kind of putting together two people's reviews and trying to, pick pieces that work and don't.
Yeah.
Without really giving away a lot of the big things. And hopefully I didn't. I don't know. When I talk for a long time, I hate to be Warner Brothers going through this.
Yeah. So. Oh my gosh. So thank you for the question, Bat Gamer Man show. Cool Batman icon too. Skyro Game says, I just want to ask, what do you both do to calm down due to news like this or movies, games that are disturbing or have disturbing news about them in one way or another?
In all honesty,
God bless you both.
We don't watch the news. Amber and I, we really don't.
I think he means like news like this where people are insane on talking about this stuff. Or yeah, but I don't watch a lot of the first of all, like the regular news where they're like, oh, some more people died and there's horrible crimes going on. Like, I don't really, why would I need to, how would that help me to see that? Like, unless it's going on right next door and I need to run out of my house right now, why would I need to see that? Like, I understand, sometimes I will hear about it and then, try to pray for people and stuff like that they'll be okay. But other than that, I really don't need to sit there and watch it play out in front of me. But yeah, for news like this, how do you calm down? Well, I don't know if Luke is very calm right now. But I
haven't been calm for years.
I do feel, I don't know, how do you calm down about it? I would say you rant over and then it's over or whatever.
Well, I mean, okay, here's the difference. The reason why I'm not really a drama channel per se, although if Heather and Rachel get a hold of this, they're probably going to try to, suspend my channel or something.
Bring it on! Well, no. Oh, no. Suspend? What? No.
Well, yeah, if you talk about
I
certain
thought they
people,
would just, say
that's
their
why,
opinion
that's
and
why
try
I didn't,
to actually counter your arguments.
That's why I didn't. No, people don't debate anymore, Amber. They just accuse people. They point fingers at one another. How I approach things is I don't tend to make a series of 30 videos discussing something. I talk about it once. I talk about it in detail. I explain why it's right or wrong, and then I move on to the next topic. I am an old school journalist in the sense that I believe that when I'm done addressing something, unless it's something that really bothered me that I couldn't let go of, that really annoyed me, like Tim and Barbara being an item in Arkham Knight, I may have talked about that quite a bit longer than I intended, but it annoyed me because of that simple mistake that Rocksteady made in picking the wrong Robin, but choosing the correct character to be with Batgirl. That really, as a comic book fan, I went through a PS4 controller because I believe I snapped it in half. But, like I said, I don't tend to harp on things too much after I've already talked about it. So, whatever happens going forward, if they issue an apology or they get even crazier with their response, I've already brought up to attention why they're wrong. I've already explained my reasoning why what they're talking about is dangerous. I don't really need to go over it again. I have other topics to talk about for Batman. Batman is a property that I'm very blessed to be able to work with for over a decade, and I have so much material that I can, basically pick from. I could talk about an entire live stream of the death of Alfred. I could talk about Magnum P.I. Batman now. If you don't know what Magnum P.I. was, it was an awesome show in the 80s, and more or less Bruce Wayne looks like Magnum P.I., even has the Dodgers baseball cap and the mustache, and he and Catwoman are going to be like a married couple going forward in 2020. So, I mean, there's lots of things that I can talk about that I don't have to go and continue to beat a dead horse. I've already said what I said. These people can't change my mind. They can't intimidate me. They're only going to have one video that they can really pick from, and I said some pretty, let's say, man, I wish I could say that word because it's a good point to explaining what I did to that. I really debunked them. I made them look like fools. I explained that this isn't a superhero movie at all, and getting outraged over a movie about a bad guy who's going to do horrific things just is kind of an oxymoron. So I don't...
It's like, Wait, there are gonna be bad things that a
Wait,
bad
wait,
guy
wait, wait,
is
wait,
gonna be
wait.
doing
A
in a movie?
guy dressed as a clown is going to be a serial killer. He's
Wait.
going to kill men and women.
A villain is gonna be doing bad things in a movie? I'm so confused.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised in the movie if, like, one of the ways he kills people is, like, pours gasoline on them, burns them to death, and laughs. I mean, Joker does a lot of horrific things. Comic book deaths are not something that's really, fun to talk about.
I think these people are just they've never read a comic book or they've never.
One of them, I'm not kidding you, one of them is actually a editor in the comic book industry.
Then I just feel like I don't know what to say. For me, I feel like I don't know. Luke does more of these videos than me, but for me, like, I just like if you're pursuing like if you just try to think things through and you find a reasonable, like you can try to find reason in it. That's I think what we're trying to do today. Is like, hey, why is this person acting insane? Let's try to find a reasonable. Let's try to bring it back down to reason.
Why are you running?
Why is she wrong? Why is she wrong? And what is actually the real reality of this situation? Let's ignore what this insane person is taking on it, and let's figure out what the reality is.
That's why I kind of say there's fake outrage, because this movie is going to be successful. I mean, but is it going to be successful for the right reasons? Do I think it should be successful? No, I think the movie is kind of a joke. I can appreciate films like Inception and things like that, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as most people did.
I think it's kind of hilarious because she's probably going to make it more popular than it would have been. By people just being enraged about it and trying to go see it multiple times.
I hate to admit this, but when outrage culture gets a hold of a movie, whether it's Captain Marvel or Joker, whatever, these movies end up becoming a bigger success than they're meant to be. If people would have ignored the Captain Marvel movie, I don't think it would have been as popular. But you had all these YouTubers creating drama about the movie for 9 months. Countless videos going back and forth between counterculture and other culture, and it created... There's no such thing as bad publicity. That is the one thing my editor taught me at the first paper I worked at. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Yeah. You may think that you're burying somebody, whether it's a politician or a celebrity, but the more attention you bring to something, the bigger you're going to make that person or that idea. And guess what?
Too.
It is true.
And it's true almost every time.
It is one of the reasons, even though I can't stand Batwoman as a character, in my career, I have never gone out of my way to bash her because I never want her to become bigger than she is. And she really hasn't. She is still a side character. I was one of the biggest comic book YouTubers 10 years ago. I could have easily put her into the center stage by ranting about how stupid her stories were, how boring her character was, but I never did it because I knew in the back of my mind that I could be the one responsible for making this a mainstream character. And she's never been. We'll see what happens after the whole Batwoman show, but because people aren't talking about it as much, it may flop. Which is good, because I have actually talked to a lot of outrage channels and I said, do not make this a big deal. Just let it die. If you talk about it like this, you're going to have another She-Ra, you're going to have another thing. And some of these outrage channels, these drama channels, they agreed. And as far as I know, they stopped making videos about Batwoman and Ruby Rose. It's just kind of been there, but not really supported by anybody. Whether you like it or not, it's just kind of, it's part of the CW. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But I am never going to contribute to that, is what I'm saying. Because I'm smarter than that.
Yeah, no, I totally understand, and that's like, that, I mean, that goes with a lot of things, and that's the hardest thing to do, is just ignore things, like bullies, ignore them, or people that are mean and stuff. Somebody was talking about,
yeah, if you gotta leave, go for it, no worries.
Yeah, well, I thought this was an interesting comment, also, we had a lot of comments about people that have been, bullied in school.
Oh, yeah,
how
definitely.
They had to deal with it. So I am very sorry about
those
everything
of you
that
like
happened to
you guys were able to pick yourselves up after going through something like that and make something of your life. You guys are the real heroes. You guys, you could easily, just be like, you know what? This was done to me. Screw everyone else. I'm gonna make people pay. But you didn't. And that's what makes you a strong person. Yeah. Not the person that bullied you and the person who, did things to you in the past. You were the one that persevered, and you were the one that overcame, and you're the one that is going to succeed.
I mean, like, I have to say that even if you don't end up being a billionaire with a cape like Batman and saving the world,
I still want a cape.
the fact that you don't turn into the Joker is really good. Like, because in reality, the people trying to hurt you, they are trying to make you into the Joker, because then they can look at you and say, see, I knew this person was going to be like that all the time. But of course, they were the ones trying to make you like that. So, you know, the reality is every kind word, even if you mess up a lot in your life, because none of us are perfect, every day, every single time that you can show somebody else kindness, even though nobody has ever showed you any kindness in your entire life, every time that you can fight against every instinct that you have to be angry and take it out on everybody else, every moment, every hour that you can show kindness to somebody else, you are winning.
Mm-hmm.
You are winning life, and you are victorious. And you know what? Even if you mess up like 7 or 8 times in a day, if you get up 9, that's what matters. You may get angry or upset or things cannot go right, but say somebody needs a hand and you help them, you just won. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be perfect in life. You just have to keep trying. That's all you have to do. You have to keep trying, because there's, you know, society and those really mean people that like to crush other people. They want us all to turn into the Joker. They want us all to just, to go in chaos or whatever. But you know what?
They want to write news stories about it.
Exactly. It's just a game to them. They're the real villains. And they don't want, and that's what they don't want to know. They don't want people, that there's a movie that says, hey, you guys are the real villains. That makes them feel, they feel it inside. They know, oh my gosh, I pushed people down my whole life.
Let me just give you guys some food for thought before I get back to some of the questions. But did you know it's actually easier for villains to recruit by doing bad things than it is for someone who's doing the right thing to get a following? If you're doing the right thing, chances are nobody is really going to commend you. But if you're doing something very bad, you are actually able to attract more people. So these people with this hot take, they have a lot of bad people following them and listening to what they're saying, and they're easily recruited by their stupidity.
Well, like,
but the people that are standing out against that person, or people that are saying some really disturbing stuff, those are the heroes. Those are the ones that are, you know, being that voice in the craziness that's explaining, hey, this is wrong, and, you know, this is what it is. You know, that's kind of what I do on YouTube. I mean, I'm not like a big persona. I never have been, but I'm kind of like the light in the darkness, in a sense.
Well,
my name even means light bringer, so.
Yep. Actually, I was just thinking, like, there's that saying that it's easier to destroy than to create. Like, I remember when, I mean, this is kind of a stupid example, but...
Then we have to get back to the comments.
Yeah, I know, but, like, say you're building something, it's so much easier to smash it all down than to build it, but...
Oh, definitely.
There's one comment that I was going to talk about way back then, and then the rest of them I can't see because my phone isn't showing them, but somebody was talking about the news and how it's going to get even worse, and I just wanted to say their comment because I thought it was interesting, and then you can just... I'll read the rest down there. But they were talking about the deep state stuff that they're doing now. Like, they actually have technology where, right now, where they can actually make any politician, any famous person, like, you know how you can Photoshop? Now they can video shop people. So they can mimic their voice, their movements, their mannerisms.
Okay, that's scary.
And so they can actually they could make a tape of any world leader saying anything they want, put it on a video. So I think it is important that people are aware of that in case the media...
Oh, okay. All right. I see where you're going with it.
No,
We're not going down that rabbit hole.
I'm not going down the rabbit hole. I'm just saying that is a really interesting point, and we should all just be wary of that.
All right, Amber.
I don't even know where it's going. I'm not using that technology.
Sweetie, okay.
I'm done. Okay,
all
now
right.
you can
see,
continue.
this is what I was talking about, guys and gals. When she has the microphone, sometimes
right,
down the rabbit hole we go.
Of the stuff that people are asking questions about the plot, like does he destroy Arkham, etc. But
no.
I don't know if
Arkham is not destroyed in a sense, like, and he does appear in Arkham at the end of the movie. But yeah, this is what I'm saying. When I can't edit some of this stuff out, Amber. So I mean,
What? I'm not the one who invented that technology.
Amber,
What?
just tell me more questions that people have. Thank you. I will have to end the stream if it gets a little too...
Alright, I'm not talking about it.
Okay,
so... I don't know. Does anyone else have any questions about this?
Does anybody have any questions besides what Amber just spoke about? Because...
K-Wife should have a conspiracy... No.
Oh, jeez.
Alright, no, we're not... Okay, no. Luke won't let me, and also, if I did...
reasons.
If I did, I would be like, I can't. Then I would be just as insane as all the people.
Yeah, I'm
all right.
Very concerned about some of the things you think and say sometimes, but I love you and I'm here for you.
Love your channel. Did not know that you were from Chicago.
I'm actually from New York. Amber's from Chicago.
Luke lived near Chicago.
We are the most opposite. That it is
7 years.
crazy.
You lived near Chicago for 7 years, but you blocked it out of your memory.
I am a New Yorker, and I lived in the Chicago area for like from '96 until about 2000 and. Well, I was in New York again from 2001.
Is there going to be... Okay, so I shouldn't have read that wrong comment that person was talking about with the media, but apparently...
I was in the middle of talking here.
I'm sorry, continue.
All right, so I lived in New York from 83 until 90, moved to Michigan, lived in Michigan for about a year and a half, then I moved back to New York. I was upstate near Albany. I lived there from 91 until about 96, and then from 96 until my senior year of high school, which was around 2000, I lived near Chicago. I didn't meet Amber until I came back to where my folks were, but I went to college 2000 through 2002 in New York, near Albany, and then I came back, and I was in Chicago again until 2004, and then I moved to Boston, where I was there from 04 until 2014, and I've been in Pennsylvania since then.
Yeah, I think Luke said at the beginning of this movie there might be some spoilers with the plot.
Yes, there are some spoilers, but the way that I talk, it's like so...
We tried to make it as vague as possible.
No, it's not just vague.
All right.
People know this. When you listen to my podcasts, I go all over the place. So, yes, part of the movie was probably spoiled, but I didn't necessarily do it in a way that you probably understood completely, because I went all over the place. So, yeah. If I don't have a script, which this is non-scripted, this is just off the top of my head and I'm just talking, you know. But we covered a lot of stuff. Whether or not it's in the correct order, I don't know, because I didn't have my notes. The only thing I'd written down was the crazy ladies. I read their stuff as best I could. Although I had to change some of the wording because their speech is less than intelligent, very crude for journalists, supposed journalists and comic book industry people. They sound like they work down at the docks or something, you know? So it was just kind of like, I still don't understand how using profanity in that manner makes you seem more... I don't know, like, you want to listen to them more? For me, that's just kind of like, this person's a loon. Why is anybody paying attention to them? There's really not any intelligent thought behind what they're saying at all. It's just like screaming with lots of cursing. I don't get it. How does this have 50,000 likes? What? Are there really that many stupid people in the world? Jeez. A lot of sheeps. But, yeah, you guys keep those questions coming, because I'm going to go all over the place.
Okay. So I'm mainly answering questions. We're getting a lot of questions about Batman questions in general. Like,
let's try to keep a lot of Batman questions to a minimum, because this is kind of about the Joker. That way, we can kind of keep me on topic a little bit. Because I would love to talk about a lot of different Batman stuff.
Does Arthur kill the Waynes?
I don't know. Like I said, the guy wanted me to see the movie because he wants my opinion of it. He wants me to do a YouTube video. The other person thought about spoiling how the Waynes die. They die. I know that. but I don't know how because I'm hearing two different ways that they die. And I don't know which one is which because, like I said, the one reviewer left the theater halfway through before the climax because they were really angry. And the other guy stayed the entire time, but he doesn't have the best memory. Like, I have a photographic memory. When I do my reviews mostly, I can tell you exactly it's more like a synopsis than it is a review. I get to my points eventually, but first I have to tell you guys the story of how it happened in the order that it occurred. So some people don't like that about my reviews, but that's how my mind works. So when my friends are writing what they thought about the movie, they do it the way, I guess, normal people do it, where they don't really go in order of events. They go with what they liked and what they didn't. And for me, it's kind of hard to understand, okay, when does this happen in the movie and when's this? Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Personally, I don't think Joker kills the Waynes. A lot of people didn't like that Joker killed the Waynes in the 89 movie. While this has some Burton-esque elements to it, they're not going to go and repeat that one cardinal sin that alienated Batman fans for 30 years again. So that's I could be totally wrong. He could be totally wrong, but I don't think the Waynes are killed by Joker. I think they're killed by the Joker's actions. I think that Joker inspires their deaths and the rising up of the poor people, and I think that's how the Waynes are killed. So in a sense, yes, Joker's responsible for the Wayne's death, but he doesn't pull the trigger in a sense. Does that make sense? Is that...
That's...
Did I get...
I think
I got to into that.
Spider Bro says, are there any other Batman villains in the movie? How brutal is the movie?
The movie is a hard-rated R film with a lot of colorful deaths. In the beginning, one of the things that I know the most about that seems kind of like Arthur's responsible for killing some guys on the subway. The scene where you see Joker in the trailer kind of laughing sadly on the train and then he gets beat up by those people. Yeah, Arthur fights back and kills those people. So those are the first three people that Joker kills, kind of. And it's kind of how Arthur starts his Joker identity, a little bit. Because he's partially wearing his clown makeup from when he was working as a clown. So, yeah, that happens. I don't know how he kills them. I think it's self-defense because they're literally, like, beating him very badly on the subway train. But the subway train plays an important aspect of the movie, which I don't believe I'm allowed to talk about, but there's a reason why the subway train is important. It probably harkens back to this scene in the movie where Joker ends those people that are attacking him. Or, excuse me, Arthur. He's not Joker yet. He's Joker in clown makeup.
I don't know if this question was for us, but someone asked, like, what... I don't know if they were just asking someone else in the chat or us, but they were wondering how would you feel if you were the Joker?
I wouldn't feel anything. I mean, the Joker has checked out a long time ago. The Joker is not a person that... Paul Dini said that he doesn't know if the Joker is necessarily aware of what he's doing or not. Like, he's completely insane. He likes the character because of, like, he's the polar opposite of Batman. Batman is a dark, brooding vigilante that is, wearing a mask and hurting people, but not killing them. He's essentially the same antithesis as the Joker, except the Joker is this guy who is a bright, happy individual who's committing heinous acts that are worse than Batman, but not so different. They're kind of like the same coin in that respect, and he liked the duality of those individuals, like how they're similar but different, but also the fact that the Joker is so evil for being a happy, crazy person, and Batman is a crazy person that's dark, and, Batman does some pretty bad stuff. I mean, he breaks people's limbs. He will almost, he'll almost kill you. He's paralyzed people. Like, I mean, he's a fun character, but some interpretations of the character, they really push how far Batman goes. And then they scale it back for the Titan show, where basically he's Adam West now, and it's like, what? How did you go from a dude we saw at the end of the Titans season 1 to becoming Adam West. It's like, that's a tonal shift. What? How did you do that? How did you do that, Warner? What are you doing to my Titan show? First you give me a cool Batman, and now you have, like, geriatric Adam West? How is this guy the same dude? What? But I'll talk about the Titans thing another time, because I really want to discuss that with you guys.
Somebody's talking about the film. Okay, I don't know if these are specific film theorists, or I don't know if it's a channel name. I don't know who the film theorists are, or if it's just some film theorist. Said that Joker's hallucinating. He's making things up in his mind, like the crowd that's running with him in the trailer. Do you think that is true?
There is... I can't say yes or no to your question. There have been some things that have leaked that you are correct about. A lot of the film is hallucinations. That's been confirmed. I haven't seen the film. I'm not going to see the film because I don't like R-rated movies. Even though I know a lot of people want me to see that, I feel like as an individual, that will haunt me for the rest of my life because I don't do well with really edgy, gory, sadistic, murdery R-rated movies. I stay away from those. I don't like those. I've never watched a serial killer movie in my life, and this is not the Dark Knight Joker. This is a murderer, and this is a murderer that gets creative. Whether or not it happens, we don't know. I don't know.
I don't do well with violent movies either. In fact, one time, okay, I usually watch...
I'm already messed up as it is. I don't need to...
I watched this movie that I thought I was going to be okay with watching, and I literally just wanted to leave the whole time I was in the
Are you talking
theater.
about the Rambo remake?
No, I am talking about there were no other movies in the theater at that time, and there was this mobster movie, and I was like, well, I'm an adult, this should be fine.
What mobster movie was it?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't even remember the title of it. I just thought there were only 40-year-old guys in the theater and me. And I was like, why in the world am I here? All I wanted to do was leave. I may have left. I don't remember. But it was too much for me. It was so much violence. I could not handle it. So I cannot. I mean, I talk a good game, but in reality, when it's in front of me, oh my gosh, I cannot watch those movies. I'm done.
You don't need... I mean, you don't
have to. I don't want to. I just wanted to go out and watch a movie. I thought it would be exciting or a thriller, but it's too much.
Listen, if you choose to see a movie, that's cool. But if you choose not to see a movie, you shouldn't be chastised for it. There's nothing wrong with your opinion about not seeing the movie. The problem I have with people that haven't seen the Joker movie and are just like freaking out and creating like this fake outrage is they're trying, a lot of them... I know this is very conspiracy-like, but if you look at their profile and the things that they like, a lot of these journalists, and people are not going to like this take, but a lot of them are big fans of the MCU and Disney. A lot of them. Whenever a DC movie comes out, you know, these people are the first ones to really butcher it.
Well, that's because this is, like, okay.
I'm not saying that as MCU fans as a whole. I'm saying that these individuals, these specific journalists, there's like 30 of them.
Yeah, the top ones.
No, they're not even top. They're not even really good at their job.
All right, never mind.
I'm saying that they are the same 20 to 25 troublemakers that always arise with DC films. They didn't like BVS. They didn't like Justice League, which, okay.
Outspoken troublemakers.
Yeah, they cause a lot of outrage.
Well,
and they give unnecessary praise to things like Ant-Man and, you know, the other, like, Thor of the Dark World. It's hard not to make an assumption that they are doing something for a reason. These were the first people, as soon as these leaks happened, to start bashing the Joker movie.
So, wait, they're getting paid by Marvel?
I didn't say that. I said that they are causing issues. I never said that they're on the take.
All right.
I think they could be, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, in general, Marvel deals differently with their villains than DC does. Can I say one more?
Yes, people universally were disappointed in Justice League. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying...
we're not talking about Justice League. I'm not talking about that.
I'm saying...
Luke didn't actually say anything either.
And these people are the ones that constantly attack Zack Snyder fans, and they attack DC in general, and they love everything that Marvel does. Like, and I'm just talking, they say bad things about the comics. These are people that are in the comic industry, although God knows how they ended up there. they don't want to be there forever. This one lady has bounced.
Shills?
They're shills, yeah. She has bounced from 3 editor jobs in the past 3 years from different comic book companies. Currently, she's at Image.
I mean, they've actually had huge scandals in different, like, journalist circles where it literally came out that certain journalists were paid certain amount of money to say something about a certain film.
Right. We're not going to dive too much into
well,
that,
anyway,
though.
This is a question that you have had over and over again.
Sure.
And it's been in different forms. So, of all the Jokers in different film, like animation, everything like this, in stories, a comic, whatever. So, what is your absolute even in whatever? What is your absolute favorite take on the Joker and your least favorite, or like, I don't know. So you've had both questions asked in the chat.
My favorite take of the Joker is the animated series and Mask of the Phantasm, because we saw different aspects of Joker's personality and different ways that he did his capers. There was a lot more to his character that was fleshed out over years, and he was a lot of fun that even today when I read Joker comics, I hear Hamill in my head, which is probably, I don't know if that's normal or not. The worst take of the Joker I've ever seen is 2 takes. All-Star Joker from the comic books and Jared Leto's Joker. Because I believe Zack Snyder said that he was kind of inspired for his Batman and Joker takes from All-Star DC Comics. Now, All-Star DC Comics were... how do I don't ever want to talk about this. All-Star DC Comics was really bad. Their stories were very... They made you think, and they also made you hate Batman. They made you hate Joker even more. Joker was pretty much the hot take online that Joker is going around assaulting women and killing them and doing all this other stuff. That's what All-Star Joker did. All-Star was a very abusive womanizer who killed women while sleeping with them and enjoyed it. He was a very, very, very dark take on the Joker. He was my most hated take of the Joker. And that is the Joker that people are worried about that, Joaquin Phoenix is, and he's not. Jared Leto's Joker seemed to borrow a lot of that character's relationship with Harley. Like, he was very abusive, and they were going with that all-star approach. All-Star Joker had tattoos all over him. He was a mob boss. Jared Leto's Joker was a mob boss, had tattoos all over. I didn't like that Joker. I hate that Joker. I never want to see that Joker again. I hope Jared Leto is done. I hope the rumors are wrong that he's in Harley Quinn's new movie as another rival mob boss with Black Mask, like they're trying to take over Gotham, because I want this Joker to disappear, and I want him to be revamped and done, because All-Star Joker is the worst interpretation of the character, and it's just not a good thing in the Me Too movement. It was a point in time in his history that happened. We can acknowledge it, and then we can never talk about it again. Because, some things go too far. And, yeah, there you go. So, not a fan of All-Star and Jared Leto. Big fan of Mark Hamill and some of the other interpretations of the Joker. Even Cesar Romero was great for the 60s, because that was kind of like the comic book Joker at the time, which was a very whimsical villain who tried to kill Batman. So, and we'll do about 10 or 20. No, we'll do 10 more questions, guys.
And we've gotten 2 super chats from Mr. Unacceptable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Unacceptable, and for the super chats. And here's the first one. It says, when the number Arkham comes, do you think Joker will be in it somehow?
When the Arkham movie comes?
Maybe the Arkham...
Well, okay. Let's talk about the age of the Joker. So this hasn't been confirmed yet. And they don't really... I think they announce Arthur's name in the movie when he's talking to the social worker. But I believe Joker is 40. Bruce Wayne is 8 years old in the movie. If Joker shows up in the 90s, which this movie takes place in 1980, I think... It's either 80 or 85 this movie takes place. It's not the 70s. It's the 80s. Then in the 90s, when Joker is dealing with Batman, he would be late 50s, maybe early 60s, and Bruce would wait. How would that work? Bruce was a kid, and if he's like 7 or 8, and he's like early 20s in the late 90s. How old would Joker be if he was 40 something in 85? He'd be like 60, right? No, 55. He'd be old. How that? I don't.
Yeah. Old. Let's go with that.
Joker calls himself the Joker, but I kind of want this character to not necessarily vanish, but kind of what they did in Gotham and have this inspire the real Joker later on. Kind of like a copycat in a sense. I think it would work for that storytelling, but Joaquin Phoenix is not supposed to be in his 20s in this movie. According to things I heard, he's supposed to be in his 40s. And he lived with his mom his whole life. He's crazy, all that other stuff. And he's a mama's boy. So,
yeah, but doesn't he take care of his mom too?
For a while.
Because that's like something that people say that is something like they even make groups for people that are like caretakers of their family, because if your family is mean to you but you're taking care of them, it can drive you insane because you're trying to take care of them and then they're like yelling at you, but they have this health condition. You cannot not take care of them. So like this, that can drive someone insane. But anyway, he actually had a typo.
Okay.
So he was saying when another Arkham game comes.
There is no more Arkham games.
Do you think the Joker will be in it somehow?
If they are releasing what originally was an Arkham game for 2020 or 2021, it will be renamed. It has no connection to Arkham. I think that WB Games has enough respect for Rocksteady to just let the franchise be over. There was a lot of mistakes made story-wise that you can't really repair anymore, and they need to just do a new franchise. They need to start over.
And thank you for all the super chats, Mr. Unacceptable.
Yeah, that's very nice.
So basically, if another Batman game comes,
there'll be a new Batman game.
Do you think the Joker will be in it then?
No.
Okay.
They're gonna do the Court of Owls, is what the rumor is. Which
right.
There is some actually legitimacy to that, which I have talked about. But I don't think it's going to be part of the Arkham universe, no.
Did you guys know Telltale Games is back?
Telltale Games did come back, although it's not the same Telltale Games that it was. They're not really bringing all their employees back, and the employees that are coming back are not thrilled because they're not going to be paid. They're basically freelance. Apparently, the Batman license is now split between Telltale, so a Season 3 is possible. It's not definite. And another company who I don't believe I'm allowed to disclose has the license as well and is working on something Batman related that may or may not be the Court of Owls, or it could be another company. I don't know. I don't believe I'm allowed to say it.
All right, so you have two different
but I did dig into that because I was curious to see what companies had the license of Batman, because usually only one company at a time could do that. And apparently another company that's actually a pretty decent developer has the Batman license as well. So who knows what's going to happen with it.
So you have a few different guesses, like said if he was born in 1945 and then the other guy was born in 1995, then he'd be 50. And then John Doe was saying he might be in his 70s or 60s when Batman is around.
Wow.
So people have like different, either 50, 60, or 70.
Like, I don't know if it's accurate, but he's a middle-aged man. I believe a social worker says how old he is, and Bruce Wayne is like 8 years old. And originally this movie was going to have no connection whatsoever to the DC cinematic universe, but the way that it ends, it leaves it open that it could be, or that Joker's hallucinations in the movie set it up during the 70s, and it actually took place in the 90s. We have no idea.
If Joker kidnapped Damian and did to him like Jason, would Bruce react? Please answer.
Damien's already been killed in the comics like once or twice, and Bruce went crazy because it's like it'd be like if Dick
Yeah,
Grayson died, Bruce goes crazy.
of course he would care if something happened to
Look,
Damien.
Dick Grayson even survived being shot in the head, and Batman went crazy for 2 years in the comics. Like he almost killed KG Beast again, and a bunch of other villains that had a hand in shooting Nightwing. He is more close to Dick and Damien than he is to the other Robins. So yes, he would probably go crazier. I mean, he went to Apocalypse in like a Batman Gundam and challenged Darkseid for the corpse of his son. I'd say that yes, Batman would go over the deep end again if something happened to Damien.
All right, so someone is asking, would you be mad if it's not the original origin? I think they're saying if Joker's origin isn't the same as his original origin or something.
You mean the Killing Joke origin? Because the
I don't
Joker,
know.
Alan Moore even said that the Killing Joke is not really Joker's origin. It's kind of his origin, but you can pick apart. He could be lying whenever he's telling it. Just like when Joker appears in the Nolan movies, you don't really know anything about him. He's supposed to be a very ambiguous character. For whatever reason, Tim Burton thought that ambiguity of the Joker was stupid, so he wanted to make him a mob boss to make him like, okay, he was a mob boss, this is what happened to him, boom. He off Batman's parents too, why not? So it's more important for the character to be anonymous, like multiple choice.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe when people were making this movie and we, the critics and YouTubers, were finding out about it. Yes, we jumped the gun and we said some pretty horrible things about the movie. And now, yeah, I feel kind of bad some of the things I said, because in that sense, even though it's not, quote, a comic book movie, it does borrow a lot of elements from the Joker. And if true, with the multiple interpretations of the film, then it does honor Joker's origin in a sense. So.
Yeah. Why does Batman always keep a distance from Tim Drake? That's because he's
Oh my gosh, yeah, we're dying here, Amber. Thank you so much for putting the air conditioner on.
Well, it's not really a Joker question, but
No, Harley Quinn does not make an appearance in the movie, as far as I know.
we had a lot of random comic book questions and stuff like that, but the reason why Batman keeps a distance from Tim Drake is because he's afraid he's gonna have what happened to him, like what happened to Jason, I think.
Yeah, more or less.
People who are just coming in are like, what was the Joker controversy? So basically, we don't really want to go into it again, but basically people were saying that people who watch this movie will become the Joker, and that this movie shouldn't be made because it encourages people to become the Joker. And we were just discussing that. They also made some very kind of wrong, like putting people into categories, saying only certain people of certain types of people would become the Joker, and these are the kinds of people that are going to become the Joker because this is who they really are deep inside. And we kind of like explored that and talked about how in reality you shouldn't really say that about people because that's mean. And basically we went into the whole thing about it, and basically not just mean but inaccurate, and we explained why that would be inaccurate.
Yeah, basically there was.
We've already kind of gone over it
yeah,
for a long time.
I don't tend to repeat points, guys. You can kind of just
You can
go
go
and
to the
listen
beginning,
to the beginning.
of the
Yeah, media influencing unrealistic types of violence. That's basically it. Yeah, there's people calling for there's going to be all these like shooters, and Joker, since he raises an army of poor people, that a bunch of people who have been like friend zoned by a bunch of women, they're going to start becoming mass shooters. There's a lot of crazy stuff that people are saying that this movie is going to create, and it's not true because a fictional character does not create a real-world issue. People talking about the dangers of a real-world issue and bringing attention to it creates the next mass shooter. Gives an opportunity for more copycats. So that's kind of what we talked about. And I also mentioned how a lot of this outrage was fake and planned because they weren't really... They could have spent the last 6 months, like, making all this hot takes about the Joker movie, but they wait until the film is in film festivals, and most of them have admitted to not even seeing the movie. So they're going off the plot of the movie, like a script that was leaked by Phillips, which may or may not be the entire movie. So
Yeah.
the other thing of the controversy, because I never ever go over points. That's why people have to watch the beginning of the movie or the thing. But lastly, the theater scene, it mirrors The Dark Knight Returns. If you're familiar with that comic, Joker killed a bunch of people in a closed off like television studio / theater, so they're worried about copycats, and they're bringing attention to that and crying wolf on something that doesn't exist, while pointing fingers at people saying, these are the dangers of society who see this movie, and this movie needs to be removed from theaters, blah, 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 because it's going to make white people go crazy and shoot people. So there you go.
But why? But why are they only? It could make us all go crazy. Why are they saying like only guys are allowed to go crazy, or only one like ethnicity is allowed to go crazy? Like it's not fair. I get to be a supervillain too. That's what I'm mad about.
I don't think Kevin Smith is upset about the movie. I haven't heard him make any. I thought he said the film was interesting. We need lockup really badly from BTS. Yeah, a lot of journalists would do good in jail. Their opinions are too dangerous.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, what I find ironic about all these journalists saying that is they're blasting all these actual crimes all over the news that is actually proven to make copycats, and then they say, oh, a comic book movie about a fake villain is going to make copycats. But anyway, we already went over it, so we're just kind of strolling down. We are going to have more DC Universe streams. Yes, we are. I forgot what the other questions were that you guys were asking, but
yeah, basically Joshua was correct. PC culture blaming white people for the evils of the world. Yeah, more or less. That's kind of part of it. But this stream is winding down, guys, so we're just gonna have a couple more Batman related questions. Which is better, Heath Ledger or Jack Nicholson? Why not both? I can appreciate the different versions of Joker from those movies. They were both like different interpretations of the character from different parts of Joker's time in comics. Burton's Joker was basically the Laughing Man from the 1940s, and Jack's crazy interpretation of like a homicidal artist / serial killer and mob boss, kind of. Although he really didn't act like a mob boss in the movie as much as people go back and say mob boss Joker was Nicholson. It's like, no, mob boss Joker was kind of thug Joker, which was Leto. Joker in the 89 movie was, as he deemed himself, a homicidal artist. He makes art until people die. That was kind of a subplot that Burton and Nicholson kind of created, like through ad lib, which was weird, but they did it. And that's why, it was weird. But I like that Joker. That was a scary Joker for me because he was unpredictable. Joker was unpredictable. Heath Ledger, also very unpredictable Joker, but he was more intelligent. He basically brought an entire city to its knees, whereas there wasn't a lot of chaos when Joker in the 89 movie was around. It was a self-contained incident, He was just kind of knocking off mob bosses. He did try to kill some people at the parade, but he didn't really go out of his way to create random anarchy the way that Ledger's did. But the pinnacle Joker will always be Hamill. Hamill is the number one Joker, and then everybody else can take a seat at the table. That's for me. Couple more questions about the film. Heath Ledger Joker kind of terrified me. Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to, Which one will reach my goal? K-Wing, which one will reach my goal? An animator or a comic book artist? I don't know. I mean, shoot for the stars, my friend. You do what you want. Is there a room for Joker sequel? Maybe. I mean, he doesn't die in the end, if that's what you're asking. He goes to Arkham. That's always been the plot. That's never changed.
Yeah, what I don't know, can I just say what I didn't understand about this movie, regardless of the controversy?
That's a good one, yeah. The Dark
never
Knight,
mind.
Dark Knight meets The Shining. I would say worse. I mean, if The Shining bothered you, this movie will really bother you. The Shining had a clear-cut, thing about why he does stuff. You're not really gonna understand why Joker does what he does. You kind of will, and at the same time, you're just gonna be like, what? Why am I watching this gore fest? Like, what? This isn't what was in the trailer. This is what?
Yeah. Well, I didn't understand what universe it was in because they've already had the Justice League, but maybe they've already like skipped out on that. Like, is he gonna meet Aquaman? I don't understand. Like, is he in a different universe than everyone else? Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, there was no standing ovation. I mean, this is a very thought-provoking movie. So, K-Wing, does the Joker controversy sound that whole thing that caused the Comic Code Authority? It does sound like we're going back to the Puritan ages a little bit, like telling women to cover up in comic books and, trying to desensitize people, but also attacking people for like violent speech. There's a lot of weird stuff that we're going backwards as a society in terms of things. So maybe the Comic Book Authority will come back, but I don't think so. I mean, comic books are a lot more censored. Well, they're starting to get more censored, which is weird because
It is weird because they kind of contradict each other because at the same time, like, the same women that are telling their comic book characters to cover up and saying, like, hey, this isn't fair that women are objectified like this. They're the same women that are saying, hey, we should be allowed to wear whatever we want. We shouldn't have any codes of what we can wear in public. It's like, but you're contradicting yourself.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right, so just a couple final thoughts, guys, because I got to get going. I have a bunch of editing to do for my other channel. I had a blast talking to you guys, so I'll just close this with a couple things. Asking about Joker's costume, is it comic book accurate? Yes, it is. The comic book version of the Joker that they're borrowing from is two interpretations, and it's two tributes. Joker in the 70s and 60s kind of wore like that. It's not really beige, but it's not really purple either. It's kind of like a reddish. It is an accurate Joker costume that was worn in the 60s, and he didn't always have his purple attire. Like, it changed. Sometimes he had like the red coat and some like yellow pants or red pants or. So they're kind of doing a toss between the Cesar Romero Joker, which also had a different costume change for the Adam West show, and they're also doing the old comic book. Because in his first appearance, yes, he wore a purple suit, but there's been different times where Joker has had a different look to him. So it's old school, and it hasn't been done in the theaters till now. So that's kind of his costume. There were also action figures in the 80s with that Joker costume because they made a mistake. It was I forget what happened, but they decided to bring Joker back for Batman Returns action figures because they didn't have enough villains. So they remade the Joker, Kenner did, and they gave him a red coat and like kind of like really gaudy pants. I don't remember the color. And his face was a lot brighter white, and his green hair was like much greener. And that could also be something that a consultant or some person working on the film who's like a historian or something used as an example for Joker's costume. But also clowns in the 70s and 60s also wore like a suit thing like that, similar color scheme. They don't really wear the purple. Carny clowns and sales clowns tend to wear like red and kind of like beige colors. So you can just focus on the hilarity of their face with the white paint and the crazy looking hair. If you have something, you have to have a color that's going to help them stand out more and be more clown-like. So that's also what they went for, from what I hear.
I don't really know. I mean, there's a lot of different questions.
You could talk all night. I got to wrap up, though. I got a lot of stuff to do.
I think we're good. I mean, people were saying, I really hope to see really good storytelling with this. Do you like the Joker's makeup, etc.?
I don't like the Joker's makeup. It reminds me of the creepy clowns from the 70s. Like, that gave me... I have clownophobia. I don't remember the exact term of it, but I am terrified of clowns. And this movie, like, reminds me of, like, It or something bad.
Yeah.
I
don't like how the Joker actually looks like a real clown in this, whereas, Usually he kind of looks like the Joker.
Yeah, he looks more like a clown than a Joker, so that bothers me. But I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, people, why is the 66 Batmobile in the Joker movie set? I can't really say. So we'll talk about it another time. Don't worry. Once the veil lifts on things, I'm not going to talk about the Joker controversy again. I'm not going to pay attention to it, but I will talk about more of the Batman Easter eggs in the movie at another time. Does that work? All right. Sound good? Awesome. Thank you so much, guys and gals, for hanging out. And I hope you had fun on the stream. Let me know what you thought about Amber being in today's episode. If it was
Never again.
better or worse.
You can say whatever you want. I'm not going to read the comments, and I'm just going to... Luke can decide if he wants me on again. This is actually your channel, so... You decide if you want... So I'm like a guest, so if you want me off of here... You can have me off. I don't want to interfere anymore. I think I said way too much that I should not have said. So I may take my bench myself.
More conspiracy, Amber. I was happy that she was here. Yeah, I enjoyed Amber being on the podcast. That was fun. But anyway, people, you have a great night. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to re-listen to this video. If some things are not correct, again, I have not seen the movie. This is from takes from journalist friends of mine who gave me kind of write-ups and phone calls after they saw the movie at a film festival. And they haven't written their official reviews yet. One wants to see the movie again so that he can decide how the heck he's going to write this thing, when the embargo's up. And the other guy walked out of the theater because he was so disturbed before the final act. So... And
wow.
Because they don't write their synopsis in the order of events, I don't know when certain things happen. So I could be completely right about everything that you heard tonight, or it could be misunderstood from how they were explaining it to me. But I think some of it is going to come off as very correct, and I think others are going to be interpreted a different way, which is the filmmaker's point of view. But the studio incident will happen in some capacity. It may not be as gruesome as people are letting on in controversy, but yes, Joker probably kills a bunch of people in a film studio, as he did in The Dark Knight Returns. It's not a take on our culture today. It is not a future, we need to be worried about this. It's from a comic book from the 1980s.
Yeah. Can I just say that comic books, I thought were supposed to be like an exaggeration of real life. I thought.
Yeah.
Know?
Yes, they are.
So, like,
it's
if
art.
It's exaggerating real life, then if people are like, oh my gosh, this is over the top, it's like, yeah. Okay, I'm done.
All right, people. You guys have a great night. I will be back talking to you about Titan Season 1, Episode 1, before the end of this week. I have a bunch of stuff to do on my channel before Legend of Zelda comes out next week. And I do have the 290 of you that are watching over on K-Wings Let's Plays. We are giving away a Nintendo Switch. It is a custom designed Nintendo Switch that was designed by, I said designed twice. It was made by a developer in Japan. It's one of a kind, and the contest is running for 2 weeks. If you want to check it out, you can go to my Let's Play channel. You can find it, or you can go to the Twitter at K-Wings Let's Plays and probably see it like whatever it is, hot linked, or I don't know. I'm too tired to think, guys. This went on longer than I wanted. But yeah, we're doing a contest for that. The winner will be announced in 2 weeks and chosen by the developer. It's open to all regions. You can check it out if you want. If not, cool. I will be back talking about Titans soon because I really, 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 really want to talk about Titans Season 2, Episode 1 because there's a lot to unpack there. But you guys have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. And I will see you on the next Nightcast soon. Bye-bye.
See ya.